which bike should I use for my starter bike? If you know what you're using the bike for and you want to get the bike that you want, then I would suggest don't let your height or your size be a contributor in the factoring of what bike you choose. Because it's only going to take you a few weeks of consistent practice and dedication to learning these simple, slow speed steps before you're confident on that bike and you can take off on it and you can stop on it. No matter what height you are and how strong you are, you'll be able to do it. And just so you know, my videos are not the common practice. The common practice is to do what they teach you in the MSF course. You run with your feet and you use your front brake to stop. I don't do any of that. And you're like, what is she talking about? It's because only 2% of the riders ride in this manner. According to Robert, only 2% of riders ride like this. That means most riders don't. So you might want to ask yourself, do I want to ride like most riders? Or do I want to ride like how a motor officer from New York City would ride? And if the answer is the latter, then I would suggest that you subscribe to his channel, Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle, and start there. It's nicer out today, but it's super windy. So we'll see how this comes out. But so far, the bikes have been working really good with all the wind. So we'll just try to work with what we have. And we'll get into today's beach talk. Today I want to talk about the bike that you start on, your starter bike. When I started over a year ago, I came from not knowing anything about riding a motorcycle. I took my MSF course on a little bike, the ones that Harley provides for you. I don't know, maybe like a 550 or something like that. I'm not really sure what it was, but it was little enough, but big enough to be intimidating and scary. So I was terrified regardless of the size of the bike. And then during that time, in the process of me getting ready to take my MSF course, we're picking out a bike for me. So my husband's like, loves to do that. I don't know if your husband loves to do that, but my husband loves to look at motorcycles and compare which one's the best one to get. So he had this whole spreadsheet that he put up on the TV for me of the style bike that he thought would probably be best for me to start on, which was a heritage Softail. And so of course I'm looking at the colors and making sure it's pretty and it's got all the things that I need on it because I'm tall. And I pick out this perfect bike. It's a 2016 Heritage Softail Classic. It took me a long time to even remember how to say the whole name of it. But it was a 2016 Heritage Softail Classic, and I named her Destiny because she was totally badass, loud, but beautiful. Just like my husband would say, just like a stripper. So we named her Destiny. And my first day on that bike, I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? This is bigger than the bike I did my MSF course on, and that was intimidating to me. So I don't know how I'm going to ever get this one. And am I gonna wreck it trying to learn on it? And am I starting on something that's a little bit more than I can, bite off? So I want to address that topic because so many people ask that question. What's a good starter bike? And having gone through, the starter thing and thinking, my husband was actually looking back online for like a junk throwaway bike, beater type of thing that I could learn on and not worry about dropping and wrecking while I learned. And we did not do that, just so you know. We didn't buy another bike. I learned on the bike that I had, the Heritage. And I quickly upgraded to a Street Glide. I kept my Heritage, I still have it. But I started in April, not thinking I would be ready to ride on the road even until October, according to my calculations. not only was I ready to ride by July on a big trip, we went on a 12-day ride, but I was ready to upgrade to a street glide by August, which I did. And I want to share with you some thoughts and some things that I did that might make your decision easier depending on the type of riding that you're going to be doing and your intention for having a motorcycle. I'll start off with that. Is my intention for having a motorcycle was to be able to go on trips operating my own motorcycle with my husband. So we were going on trips 2-up and we were enjoying that. So I wanted to continue that, but only be riding my own motorcycle. So if that's not your intention, then this might not apply to you, but it could. So we'll just go with that. So the Heritage was supposed to be something that I could not only learn on, but take on trips, right? It's a touring motorcycle. Actually, I think it's a cruiser. So it's maybe a cruiser. It's not a touring motorcycle. Touring motorcycles are motorcycles that have bags and they are designed to go farther for comfort, if that makes any sense. Mine had bags, but it didn't have a fairing or any wind protection other than the windshield. And so it's not necessarily designed for, doing an 11,000 mile trip, which we did 2 of those this past summer, but I had my street glide. So getting back to the topic at hand, I have a motorcycle that can be used for going on trips. And my husband, is familiar with going on trips that were like, 3 or 4 days, a week, maybe 10 days, 12 days is like a big trip. So a Harley or a Heritage Softail would be fine for that. But on that first day that I was on the motorcycle, I was like, oh man, this might be too much for me. And I really don't want to wreck it. So first things first, we got guards for it. So it had the crash guards in the front where the highway pegs go, and we put the bag guards on the back so that if it tipped, it would land on the guards and it wouldn't hurt the bike. So that's number one recommendation, is to not only put engine guards and bag guards on your bikes, but also put drop guards. Drop guards are the things that go on your engine guard and on your bag guards that protect those. So you literally don't have to worry if you drop your bike. And I recommend getting familiar with dropping your bike, because it's going to happen and you want to be comfortable with it. You also want to do it gracefully versus hang on to it and drag it over and tip it upside down onto the handlebars or the fairing. So you really want to understand the whole dropping of your bike thing, because most people who drop their bike, it's not a major drop, it's a fluff, right? It's like you're in the parking lot, you pull the front brake, the wheel's not straight, and it tips over. The reason it tips over is because it gets just a little bit too far beyond the width where you can hold up. It doesn't matter whether you're 5 foot or 6 foot or 7 foot. You're not going to be able to hold that bike up unless you're like a weightlifter, bodybuilder. So forget about size. Forget about anything having to do with your height or how strong you are when you're picking out your bike. Pick out the bike that you want to enjoy riding on when you're fully equipped to do so. Because if you practice, it's not going to take you long. And that's my suggestion, is that you practice on your bike and you get really familiar with how it operates and how to do all the slow speed maneuvers, how to manage it in a parking lot and how to manage it in a gas station and all these different things, turning, using your signals and emergency braking, all those things. Learn to do that stuff in a parking lot. On the bike you want to ride, because you're going to be upgrading fast enough as soon as you're good and you're comfortable. And believe me, if you put enough hours in the parking lot, you're going to be comfortable pretty darn fast. So let me just share about that. My first day, I'm just getting used to the bike moving and rolling along with it. So I'm dragging my feet on our street. There's no cars on our street. It's only 6 houses. It's a cul-de-sac. And I'm dragging my feet, just idling and letting the clutch out just a little bit to make it go. Not all the way out, so I would go full blast, but just out enough to make the bike move along. Now, I went from there to, okay, I can make it go up and down the street. I couldn't turn it around in the street because the street's only 18 feet wide, so I had to walk it around and 3-point turn it. And I did drop it once. My first drop was exactly what I just described. The front wheel was turned a little bit, and I was moving forward just a little bit, and I grabbed the front brake, and it bumped it right over. Now, of course, that's what we call a fluff. It just fell on the ground. And so now I got like, okay, now I know what dropping it looks like, and picking it up, and getting familiar with, okay, so I'm not gonna have a heart attack if my bike falls over on the ground. And then I'm ready to go into like a parking lot to do some riding around in circles and big figure eights and learning how to turn this thing and stop it. My biggest concern was I wanted to be able to stop it. Like, how do I stop this thing and not get myself into a situation on a road where I don't know what I'm doing, I have a brain fart and I can't stop it. So I go, we have a couple of parking lots near our house, and one of them was the high school parking lot, empty. It was summertime, and or just letting out. So it was a good time to go to the parking lot at the high school. And I wouldn't even ride it there. My husband would either trailer it there, or he would ride it there and I would drive the truck. And then once I was in the parking lot, I would get it, I would get on it and start it and ride in these big, giant circles all around the parking lot, just to get comfortable with being on the bike, right? Because it's brand new to me and I'm terrified. And honestly, just, turning it in those big, wide circles is quite frightening when you're brand new. And I decided that I don't know enough to just do it myself, and I don't want to build bad habits. So I didn't know anything else but to go back to my MSF instructor and ask him if he would do some private lessons with me down at the high school, and he agreed. So what I did was I did 6 hours of lessons, 3 2-hour practice sessions with him on 3 successive weekends. So I had time in between the weekend practices to practice what he had taught me in the session that I had with him. So he put this little course together that I could do, and then I would go during the week and I would practice that course. And then he would come back the next time and go a little bit more, and then I would practice that the following week. So if you're brand new to riding, and my husband could have tried to show me what to do and worked with me and said, okay, do this, do that. But he knows how I am. And I need somebody who is skilled at training people how to ride a motorcycle. Not that he's not skilled at doing that. It's that he doesn't remember all the different nuances that a brand new person would need to know. He just knows how to get on and ride. So to break it down from, okay, this is what the clutch does, this is what the brake does, this is when you do this, and this is when you do that. It was something that he didn't want to tackle. And also he wanted to preserve the relationship and not try to teach me so that we didn't get in arguments about it. So what he did was he just videotaped while I was there, practicing with my coach and cheering me on. And of course he would give me helpful tips and insights when he would see that it would be useful. But he was not there to be overbearing or teach me how to ride a motorcycle, because he knows best. And for those of you husbands who step back and allow your wife to ride her own motorcycle and get trained by a professional, I applaud you, because it worked out extremely well for both of us. And I did my lessons with my coach, and after that I would just continue to practice. So I'm going to do my lunges and I'll get back to what happened when I did my practices. All right, so lunges are done. I'm a little winded, but we'll get over that. And I have to keep the camera facing this way, because otherwise I think it's right into the sun. Well, actually, I think I'm blocking the sun. Maybe it'll work. So you can see the nice ocean instead of the seaweed and the condos. So back to my practice sessions. I didn't know how long it was going to take me to learn how to ride my bike well enough that I would feel comfortable on the road. I figured it would just be a feeling. But I kind of have this like work with the end in mind type of philosophy. And I was thinking, typically they say it takes 10,000 hours to practice, 10,000 hours to master something. So if I broke that down into 2-hour, 3-hour sessions of practicing by myself, and I did it several times a week, that it would take until October. That's where I came up with the 6 months to be ready on the road, or to be ready to be able to ride on the road with my bike. And my husband had introduced me to these channels on learning how to ride a motorcycle. You're on YouTube right now looking for what's the best bike for me, what's the best starter bike for me. Well, that's what I was looking at. How do you ride a motorcycle? And there were 2 channels that he put me in front of. One was Ride Like a Pro, and that's where I saw the 4'10" female rider riding a bike like a Road King, bigger bike than mine, in circles like she owns it. And she is, she can't even touch the ground. So 4'10", I got no excuses. Sorry, but that takes the height, I'm too short, off the table. If you watch her ride, you know that there has to be a technique. I'm like, great. If there's a technique, I can do that. I can learn a technique. And that's why I say, if you're somebody that believes you can learn anything, you can learn how to ride a motorcycle. Because there's a technique that you can model what other successful riders do. And there's tons of successful riders, and they're in all different genres of riding. So my specific focus was slow speed riding. I wanted to be able to move my bike around with grace and poise like that 4'10" woman in tight quarters, because that's where I felt I would be the most at risk. When things were going slow and they required precision in movement of my motorcycle. Because the last thing I was going to do was push it around with my feet. So I'm not going to learn how to walk my bike around. I'm going to learn how to ride it like this 4'10" woman. The other channel that my husband introduced me to was called Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle. And just the name alone was like music to my ears. I want to be the boss of my motorcycle. Do you want to be the boss of your motorcycle? I certainly do. So I set out to watch those videos on his channel. And he's got them all nice and organized in a playlist called Practice Sessions. And that's where I got big on knowing that there's riding your bike to learn how to ride it, which a lot of people subscribe to. I'm not one of them. Doesn't make it wrong. It just doesn't feel safe to me to figure out how to do things while I'm in the midst of them. I want to figure out how to do things in a learning environment, in an environment where it's not going to be life or death, it's not going to be catastrophic to my bike, and it's not going to be catastrophic to me or anyone else. So if you're like me in that respect, practicing in the confines of a safe parking lot is perfect. And that's why I subscribe to practice sessions, because that's what Robert did. Practice sessions on his channel. And what he taught in his practice sessions were steps that allowed you to manage your bike at slow speeds. Take off smoothly, stop smoothly, turn, whatever the surface is, on gravel, on pavement, on bumpy, whatever, uneven surfaces, like just turning the bike with total control. So, and then getting into the leaning and all that, U-turns and whatnot. But really my focus was I want to be able to take off properly and stop properly. And I started integrating those things that he was teaching on his channel into the exercises that my MSF coach had given me. And now I was practicing from during the week, using those techniques of taking off and stopping with the exercises that my coach gave me. And I can tell you this, my level of control skyrocketed. And my confidence went with it, like skyrocketed. My confidence was building. And I started to feel that pit of anxiety that I was feeling every single time I got on the bike and started it. Like, I really, really, really want to do this. And as soon as I get on the bike and start going, this level of anxiety would come through my bloodstream and through my nervous system and just make me so overwhelmed and overwrought with fear that I didn't want to build that into my psyche. Every time I got on the motorcycle, I didn't want to reinforce that feeling because I was nervous. And then I would want to get off after, a short stint on my practice. So when I started integrating those steps of starting smoothly and stopping smoothly and gaining more confidence with controlling my bike and being the boss of it, that whole nervous system, anxiety, overwhelming fear was diminishing, was going down. And my confidence was coming up. And that is my version of it'll go away. I don't believe it just goes away. You either you're always practicing something. If you ever listen to the Power of Mindfulness on YouTube by Shauna Shapiro, great video. It's very short, it's like 13 minutes. Power of Mindfulness, she talks about that we're always practicing something. Because the thing that we do all the time is what we're practicing. They're habits, right? We're embedding those into our neurology. And if we do things often enough, they get embedded into our neural pathways, and then that becomes your way of being. So you're practicing something all the time. Check it out because it's really good. So what I'm saying about practicing fear and anxiety at my practice sessions, I didn't want to be practicing that. I didn't want to be reinforcing that feeling in my nervous system as I was learning to ride the motorcycle, because every time something would happen, it would cause a hit to my confidence. So what I wanted to do was build that feeling of joy and control and certainty and confidence and that elation you feel when you're not worried about anything on your motorcycle. I wanted that to be my standard way of being, but I wanted a healthy respect of the fear that I had for this is still a dangerous machine. I can get very hurt on it, or I can hurt someone else on it, and I don't want to do that. So what I want to do is have all the joy and all the fulfillment of riding the motorcycle and less fear, less anxiety. And through practicing these techniques, I have accomplished that. And I accomplished that with the regimen of practicing over and over and over again until I didn't have that nervous feeling when I was on the bike riding around in the parking lot. Now, mind you, my parking lot, I had a couple of different parking lots that I used, but there was one that was right by my house, and it was in a strip mall type of parking lot. So there were stop signs, there were cars, there was an old building that used to be a bank that wasn't being used as a bank anymore, that had a little hill, like a little incline up the ramp and around down the hill and a curve to the stop sign before you had to take a turn to get onto the main entrance of the parking lot to turn where the stores were. And I could use that to practice my takeoffs, my controlled takeoffs on an incline. So if you can find a parking lot that has all of those qualities, then that would be a place to practice that stuff. If you have a neighborhood where it's not very busy, say you live in a plat where it's kind of hilly and curvy and there's stop signs and cul-de-sacs, then you can practice there, because people in your neighborhood shouldn't be going super fast, and they might know you, so they're not going to run you over, and they might even toot at you and say, hey, yeah, walk on. So your neighborhood might be appropriate for practicing these things, but I would suggest you do that after you've done at least learning how to control your stops and your starts and get your clutch control down before going anywhere on the road, even your neighborhood road. Parking lots are the best. Empty parking lots, so pick a time where it's not busy. Certainly don't want to pick a Walmart parking lot, right? So anyway, back to which bike should I use for my starter bike? If you know what you're using the bike for, and you want to get the bike that you want because it's like a one-shot deal for you, then I would suggest don't let your height or your size be a contributor in the factoring of what bike you choose, because it's only going to take you a few weeks of consistent practice and dedication to learning these simple, slow-speed steps before you're confident on that bike and you can take off on it and you can stop on it. No matter what height you are and how strong you are, you'll be able to do it. And just so you know, my videos are not the common practice. The common practice is to do what they teach you in the MSF course. You run with your feet and you use your front brake to stop. I don't do any of that. So if you hear that stuff and you're like, what is she talking about? It's because only 2% of the riders ride in this manner. 98% of riders, according to Robert Simmons of Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle, 98% of riders, no, according to Robert, only 2% of riders ride like this. That means most riders don't, okay? So you might want to ask yourself, do I want to ride like most riders? Or do I want to ride like how a motor officer from New York City would ride his motorcycle? And if the answer is the latter, then I would suggest that you subscribe to his channel, Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle, and start there. Just start there to get the basics down, because his focus is you. His focus isn't how great he is. His focus isn't how wonderful of a teacher he is. Hi. His focus is you being as safe and proficient on your motorcycle as possible. And he teaches the most subtle nuances of slow speed operation. So you can actually listen to the videos, watch them, and then model what he's saying and try it for yourself and practice it. And that is exactly what I did. I didn't go up to Pooler, Georgia until I had been riding for about 12 or 13 weeks, because we were on our 12-day ride. That's how I know how long it took me to get going. We were on our 12-day ride up to the Blue Ridge Parkway and all that, and I had only been riding for 12 weeks, but we stopped in Pooler, Georgia on the way up to do a practice session with Robert. And you can do those practice sessions with him. He announces them in advance so you can make plans as long as you're subscribed to his channel and you're a VI preloader. So when you subscribe to his channel, there's a join button, and when you click it, you pay a monthly fee. It's like $6.99, and you get all that training. You get all that training, and you get to go practice with him. Like, it's not like paying hundreds of dollars to go to an instructor or even take a course. That's why I'm saying, you can invest time and energy and your attention into learning these skills and ride with so much confidence, and then so you can learn how to ride with that level of confidence. And then what happens is, if you're practicing on a regular basis, you're going to realize the importance of practicing frequently, because these skills are perishable, right? You not always have them in your back pocket if you're not practicing them all the time. So that's why I say practice with purpose, so you can ride with confidence. And to be a 2%er. Be a 2%er. My other slogan is do it in a parking lot, right? So all these things come to mind because they make sense. At least they make sense to me. And if they make sense to you, there'll be more content just like this coming up. And what I'd like to know from you is, where are you practicing? Have you found the best parking lot? Have you set up a regular schedule for yourself? What kind of feedback are you getting from doing your parking lot practice? That's another thing that happens to us all the time. People stop and they comment on, what are you guys doing? Are you doing some kind of motorcycle course? What, are you practicing for a rodeo type of thing or whatever? And we're like, no, we're just practicing. We just put the cones out, we practice. They're like, that's so great. My son has a motorcycle, can he come? Like, yeah, send him over. So anybody can come practice with us. And we just practice. Like, we're not teaching people necessarily how to ride the motorcycle. Yes, we are helping them with their slow speed skills, because most times when people come, they don't know how to do them. And we have to show them how to do them. And then what we do is we suggest that they get on Robert's channel and watch it a bit, because it takes a bit to understand exactly what it is you're doing. And when we do that, they come back and they try again and again. And some people have just progressed so much that it's fun to just come and practice. But don't make your practice sessions reliant on other people being there. Make your practice sessions reliant on you wanting to be there for yourself. Show up for yourself, practice for yourself, practice for your own safety. Remember, we are taking 100% responsibility, not only for ourselves when we ride a motorcycle, but we're taking 100% responsibility for everything that happens around us. Because it doesn't matter whose fault it is. The person on the motorcycle isn't going to win. So you don't want to be that person. At least I don't think you want to be that person. I don't want to be that person. And maybe you don't want to be that person. And maybe you don't want to be the person that finds out that you're lacking in a skill when you need it the most. So do it in a parking lot. So you will learn how to become fearless on your motorcycle. And by that I mean you fear it less, and you're willing to try more, and you're willing to stretch yourself to up-level your skills. And when you up-level your skills, your confidence is so much higher, and your enjoyment of the ride is so much more. And if that is true for you, like if you're subscribing to this philosophy, then I want to hear from you in the comments. I want to see videos of you. You can email me videos. You can send me or tag me on Instagram or tag me on Facebook at Fearless Motorcycling with Lori and show me your videos. Like, I want to see your videos of you practicing, and I want to know how you're doing and how much it's making a difference in your life. And it will be so much fun to raise awareness that motorcycles aren't these big, giant, dangerous, scary, heavy beasts that kill people, because they're not. I will talk about the statistics. My husband did all that. He looked up all the statistics before I started riding to give me a sense of assurance that I wasn't in the statistic of commonly killed people. And it's mostly people that are young, between 20 and 20, mostly male, first of all. It's 80% males ride motorcycle, so I got that going for me. 20 to 29 is the age group that gets in the most accidents. I'm 61 now, so that doesn't apply to me either. That they're under the influence of alcohol or drugs. I don't drink or do drugs, so that doesn't apply for me either. And another one was they didn't use proper equipment, right? So the equipment wasn't right. Like, I don't ride in sandals. I don't ride with my helmet when I'm practicing in the parking lot, but I do use my helmet every other time. Full face mask, it's a modular, I love it. I don't like debris hitting me in the face, so I'm all in on the wearing the helmet. You don't have to be, it's not my thing, but I'm not in that category. And the last thing was inadequate training, like unskilled riders. And that is the one thing I could be in if I chose not to practice and work on my skills. So I had control over that demographic as well. So you can keep yourself out of the statistics simply by being out of all of those categories and taking 100% responsibility for everything that goes on the road. And by doing that, you practice until you have all the skills and you can handle that bike like a boss. See you next time.